Hello everyone and welcome. In this recording I would like to speak about the upcoming energies that we can expect, not just from an astrological perspective, but also from a, vaster spiritual perspective. And I would also like to give a little bit of guidance of how we could or should perhaps prepare ourselves for the upcoming eclipses and especially the period that comes after. And the year 2023 is also very important from the very beginning because Pluto will touch on 0 degrees Aquarius and that will give us a hint. But when I say hint, it's a very clear hint. It's not just something that we have to necessarily interpret. It's very clear of what we can expect the next perhaps 20 to 200 years to be like. Of course, the next 20 years more like, because the 200 is not necessarily our business as individuals, just as souls, what we leave behind. That is absolutely our business. And that is also one of the highlights of this period because of the Saturn and Uranus square. And Saturn can represent what it is that we leave behind. And Uranus in this case is a purgatory and purifying force, even though one would have to be almost alchemically crazy to look at Uranus in such a way, but is that not what is happening with awareness and the truth, the stark truth that we cannot ignore, and surprisingly many aspects of that truth is not necessarily empirically scientific, but rather this is where everything is starting to lead back to Uranus in Taurus love. Love. And that is where Uranus might be showing us collectively that our empirical scientific power, strength, knowledge, and the legacy that we already can leave behind, well, that is not all that much without us seeing it as a tool of love. Without it, it is basically more like a slave that we are creating for ourselves, for our species. When I said slave, not a slave. A slave, we may look at it right now in the present moment, but it is actually our master where we are the slaves. And that is a reality of world, a collective consciousness where the empirical is almost godly because the divine is of such that everything that empirical mind and even a function of consciousness, which is mental, can perceive is just a small phase. So, beyond that barrier, one needs heart in order to exist beyond. Because without heart, there is a limit, really. With heart, there is no limit. So, this is what scientists ultimately, Uranus, will discover in the next 200 years. But we, in the present moment, are actually creating, um, fueling, dreaming up, determining, choosing quite consciously what our collective future should be like. And everything in in the sky, basically all of the astrology, but everything that is beyond astrology as well, everything that is, let's say, collateral to astrology, the wisdom of the earth, the strength and basically living memory within the roots of the trees, where some trees have been around. Absolutely, the wisdom and information and memory locked within our genes. So all of these things are basically parallel to astrology, similar to it in the sense that they guide us, They tell us the truth, and they speak about the same thing as basically everything coming from a divine source, that right now we truly need to live things, see things, exist from the place of the heart. Because we do need that very, very powerful, refined, collective, communion fueled love energy in order to collectively choose a future which is a cradle for something absolutely divine that will be born out of us, basically. But it can also be a very sad, dark, cold laboratory where there is no heart and will never ever be a heart. So, this is where we truly need to know what we are doing with our existence right now, because this is the pivotal moment, karmically, astrologically, in any way, quantum physically, even, or astrologically in a larger sense, where the solar system is at a particularly important spot as it revolves around the galactic center, Sagittarius A star. So, yes, this is the moment when we choose our fate, really. And without the heart, nothing human can exist. There is no emotion. It is void of all that is no longer in existence, where the hope creates the future, which is ever changeable, which is basically a bliss to immerse into, even if it's a great unknown, as they call it, the divine mystery. But it can also be a future where everything is known from beginning to the end, and there is no place for hope, love, heart. There is only place for knowledge. There is only place for the perfect structure that is ultimately without soul. So, yes, we might be living something a bit Neptunian right now, where we do not realize the grave importance that our everyday thoughts, feelings, emotions, and what we focus upon, that is of the greatest importance right now, where we are actually the building blocks of something which we can't even see coming, in a sense that it's unimaginable to us. But, all we need to truly know is that it is our responsibility, duty, role as creations to help the Creator fight for our own design, for its own intent for us, which is not forced down our throats. We have to choose it. That is true mercy. We have to learn. Some souls might say, well, isn't that stupid, ridiculous? Where's the authority in there? It's a creator after all. Well, is that not the ultimate mercy, where even the benevolence is not forced down your throat at all? Isn't that absolute freedom? We kind of wished this from generations and different stages that our civilizations existed, because let's not get us anything wrong, in a sense that the ancients and everything, Egypt, Sumeria, Babylon, Atlantis, beyond that, even with when we were on Thea, let's say, not even in the present, well, it was still us. It was still us. It's us. It's just us. So we're actually learning from us, looking up to us, praising us. When we live in the past, that's also us. It's not. So, that's why exactly at pivotal moments when we failed, the clock takes that it comes back, and we It's so easy, infinitely easy not to fail. So I truly hope that we will not fail. But in order to do that, we need to embody love. We need to live from the sacred passion of the heart. We can no longer have the childishness to see one another from the lens of the ego, where you just see the ego of the person, how bad and selfish and this and that the person is. Okay, but why don't you try seeing actually that the soul which is also tortured by that person's ego, and many times I'm not saying that the ego doesn't break when you truly slap it, but who are we to do that? Anyway, this is where the future also depends on partnerships. So this part of the guidance is especially for those who are in an established bond already, not so much for those who are seeking it or not isn't would not be part of their story. But if you have an established bond in your life, and if you and your partner are wise enough and human enough to hold this alliance together by choice, by respect, by love, and also by sacrifice for one another, to allow, not to demand anything from your partner, just allow them to give what they can and do the same. That is the healthy alliance. And you know, even myself, as in me, maybe 2 weeks ago, I would have told myself, my present self, that, oh, this is such a BS. You don't believe in this, do you? Because you live in 2022. But I did see it. I saw it with my own eyes, that respect and willing to cooperate for the greater good is truly possible. And it goes beyond all. So, yes, this is what we need to do. This is what you guys who have a partner, you truly need to be either a gentleman or a lady right now, but with your soul, to truly show the kindness and the cooperation, to make sure that you're a unit, because when one lives from the heart, the other one will do the same. So this is where you're truly building your future. And speaking about partnerships, this is also a difficult moment, perhaps, because Sun, Venus, then Mercury are starting to touch an astrological part of the zodiac, which is called Via Combusta, the path of combustion, from 15 degrees to Libra to 15. I I think it's 15 to Scorpio. It is this path where relationships change, feelings change. The Libra segment is when the confrontation happens, the scales. And then the Scorpio segment is where it's transformed. But Scorpio can be highly conflictual, you know, the heartache stuff, all of that. So that also might be something that might be, knocking on the door for some people, but you already know this, so this is not a surprise that the divorce, the separation, the difficult agreement, the difficult compromise, whatever that is coming. But this is where, what do you do with it? Wisdom can play a massive role on how you transform this, because it doesn't have to be toxic. The Scorpio segment, because toxicity, yeah, but you can release it immediately, so it's not there. That's the good part of Scorpio. But still, dynamics of relationships of any kind are now in the cauldron of change, so to speak, because we had the Mercury retrograde. Pluto is already direct, and we're feeling this heavily, so we know our truth, and that's not changing. So this is why the path of fire can burn out the impurities, so to speak, and it can actually burn with truth and also subjective truth in that way, because all truth is subjective by nature. That's what Jupiter tells us. So Jupiter, speaking about Jupiter, justice has to also be lived through the heart, because the heart knows forgiveness. The heart knows that justice may not necessarily be when the numbers match, when it's 50-50, when vengeance is paid back. Justice is the state of peace. And sometimes you can do that for yourself without any kind of act of justice or self righteousness, while other times self righteousness is merely speaking it out and walking away. So, there are going to be a lot of issues with these in the even not in the coming weeks, because actually in the present, because the sun is already there, so it's ongoing. This energy is ongoing, and we need to be wise, we need to be patient, and again see everything through the lens of love. We must, this is where partners are karmically fighting with one another, in a sense that they're saying to each other, I wish I never met you, we were not meant to be, I must have had a really bad karma, this and that. Now that is an act of aggression, because does it necessarily have to be that way? Because that kind of regret and speaking it out, basically you aggress the past. You send the negativity, the toxin, onto the past, and you undo all the good that was done there. No one questions that there was bad, because that's part of the game. But why undo the good? Why poison your soul to remember another soul in a twisted way? You get what I mean? So this is where we also need to be responsible alchemists, and not direct energies in a spiritually and, let's say, quantum physically wrong sense into the past, where we undo the good. Isn't that when we undo our own karma, really? So let's live it, breathe it, decide on it through the lens of love. And this is really, really important, because you can imagine, on a larger sense, spiritually, this is also really the case. There is this massive awakening, which everyone thinks is the saving grace, but is it? If it serves the hyper ego, me, I'm the superstar, the universe is my slave, really. The universe is just a free. What are you saying? That the universe is emotionally dead? That emotion is a error in the. No, no, it's the other way around, really. Emotion is there is just emotion, really, because whatever you can perceive it, what you call frequency, what you call the vibe, and the universe understands us through vibes, and what we program. Yes, only because we are trapped in a small slice of creation of the what the Kabbalists call the kingdom of the great tree, where yes, that is the case. But that's such a small slice that outside of it, everything is not really frequency and vibe, because everything is how should I say when they explain this? How closely you get the creator, how close you understand, but by everything that is your being. That's where you connect. That's when frequency is laughable, matter is laughable, science is laughable, because the act of creation is basically, science cannot explain really a dream, but everything is just a dream, nothing is real. So frequent is, are you sure about the frequency? But to understand it as just a frequency frees you from responsibility, from compassion to the creator, compassion, true spiritual compassion to all. So of course you do what you want. You just get the power but not the responsibility. So that's one stage, yes, but Saturn will touch Pisces very soon, so that will change. You will see how reality is when frequency doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what frequency you put, you still get what you need to get. Spiritual, you, the frequency is forced upon you, because this is when the universe says, I don't care what frequency you generate, this is the frequency I forcibly want to generate for you. Saturn in the sign of Pisces, where the ether is not all that free for a few years, but the ether is responsible as purified, distilled, where, you know, the more we are aligned to the deep emotion of the creator, which can only be love, the more that Saturn does nothing to us, nothing that we would feel as restriction. Absolutely nothing. It will quite the opposite. It will give us all the reasons to be grateful for. That is when we might be flooded with gratitude, when we are humbled by how not harsh reality, life, anything is with us. But that means we see Pisces, we see the opposite next door, very closely to us. How harsh reality can be, regardless of the frequency, so to speak. And, that is when the hyper ego will start to look itself in the mirror and not like what it sees. And what will happen? Return to humbleness. So it's not a big deal, really. It's still okay, but let that be a blissful, pleasurable, how should I say, soothing experience, and not necessarily a purgatory where you're responsibilized spiritually. And when I say you, it's not a person, all of us, a species together. Because the awakening is lovely. What a blessing, what a gift. We get it finally with the consciousness, but if not through the heart, then we are wasting our time. So, but that's not necessarily the problem because it's absolutely fine. The hyperego doesn't matter if it's set on love, it's absolutely fine. But still, we do need to truly, truly embody what love is right now and the state of sacred passion, because we're truly creating our futures and the futures of our children with this, quite literally. Thank you so much for listening, and I do hope that this was useful. And until next time, bye for now.